It was a quiet afternoon. Rain fell softly outside my office window. I, Detective Edmund Graves, sat reading a book. The old leather-bound book felt heavy in my hands. I enjoyed these calm moments. My mind was thoughtful. Suddenly, the telephone rang loudly. The sound cut through the quiet room. I put my book down. Then I picked up the receiver. A voice spoke quickly on the other end. My expression became very serious. This call was important. Soon, I was driving my car. The road wound through the countryside. The weather was still gray and foggy. Thick mist hung over the fields. Trees looked like dark shapes. The journey felt long and somber. A heavy feeling filled the air. Finally, I arrived at a large, old manor. It stood dark against the gray sky. The house looked very old and grand. A police officer waited at the heavy front door. He was Officer Thomas. His face was serious. The manor felt mysterious. I stepped inside the house. It was even darker inside. Old furniture filled the wide hallway. Dust motes danced in the dim light. Large, dark paintings hung on the walls. They seemed to watch me. The air was heavy and gloomy. Officer Thomas led me through the quiet house. Our footsteps made no sound on the thick carpets. We walked past many closed doors. Then he stopped at one particular door. It was a large, heavy wooden door. This was the library. The atmosphere felt tense. Officer Thomas opened the library door slowly. I stepped inside. The room was large and dark. On the floor, near a big desk, lay a body. It was Cyrus Pendleton. He was an old man, very still. The sight was grim. My eyes moved from the body. Then I saw something else on the carpet. It was a heavy brass ship model. The model was very detailed. It looked like an old galleon ship. This was the famous Brass Galleon. It lay near Mr. Pendleton's hand. I looked at the library door again. It was now open. Officer Thomas stood beside me. He spoke quietly. "Detective, the door was locked." He added, "It was locked from the inside." This made the case very puzzling. I began my careful examination. My eyes moved slowly around the room. I looked at every detail. Nothing was too small to notice. I checked the bookshelves. I looked at the desk and the carpet. My work was always methodical. My first interview was with Victor Pendleton, the victim's nephew. He sat in a large, dark armchair in the library. He looked very relaxed. His confidence seemed strange for this sad time. Victor said he was in the city all day. He looked sad, but his eyes did not show it. Then he quickly asked about his uncle's will. He seemed more interested in money than in sorrow. Next, I spoke with Lawrence Shaw, Cyrus's business partner. He was in the study, a smaller room next to the library. Lawrence looked very nervous. He kept touching his tie and looking at the door. Lawrence told me Cyrus was making bad decisions. Their company was losing much money. He said Cyrus was stubborn and did not listen. Lawrence sounded very frustrated and worried about the future. I found the housekeeper, Agnes Holloway, in the kitchen. She was sitting at a large wooden table. Agnes was crying quietly into a handkerchief. Her sorrow filled the room. Agnes said Cyrus was a difficult man to work for. She paused, then looked away. She did not want to say more about him. Her eyes showed a deep fear, and she became very quiet. My final interview was with Beatrice Lancaster. She arrived at the manor in a dark car. Beatrice was an elegant woman, very formal. She showed no emotion, just a cold politeness. Beatrice admitted she disliked Cyrus very much. They were rivals in art collecting. However, she said she was at a gallery opening far away. She spoke with confidence, dismissing any suspicion. After all the interviews, I returned to the library alone. The room was quiet now. I felt that something was wrong. The stories did not fit together perfectly. I looked at the brass galleon again on the desk. It was the murder weapon, but it seemed too simple. I felt skeptical. Was it really so obvious? Detective Edmund Graves walks into the library. He looks at the large desk. Cyrus Pendleton's empty teacup sits there. It is a simple white cup. Edmund examines it closely. Edmund sees something tiny. It is next to the teacup. He takes out his small tweezers. He carefully picks up the object. He wants to know what it is. The object is a flower petal. It is very small and deep purple. It has a unique star-like shape. Edmund puts it into a clear evidence bag. This petal is a new clue. Edmund leaves the library. He walks through the manor gardens. He is looking for something specific. He thinks about the purple petal. He wonders where it came from. He walks past some tall bushes. Then he sees something hidden. It is a small greenhouse. The glass panels reflect the dim light. He feels intrigued by this discovery. Edmund steps inside the greenhouse. Many rare flowers grow there. He sees a beautiful purple orchid. Its petals match the one he found. He now understands the petal's origin. Agnes Holloway enters the greenhouse. She sees Edmund standing there. Her eyes widen in surprise. She looks very shocked to see him. Her face shows her sudden fear. Edmund looks at Agnes. He asks her about the orchid. He knows it is a rare plant. He also knows this orchid is poisonous. Agnes looks very nervous and uneasy. A few days later, Edmund gathers everyone. They meet in the manor library. Victor Pendleton is there. Lawrence Shaw and Beatrice Lancaster also sit. The room feels tense and quiet. Agnes Holloway is also present. She stands by the wall. She looks down at the floor. She does not look at anyone. She seems very nervous and somber. I looked at the faces before me. Victor, Lawrence, and Beatrice waited. Agnes stood quietly in the corner. The time for talk was over. The time for answers had come. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice calm. "I have solved the mystery of Cyrus Pendleton's death." I walked to the large desk. The brass galleon sat there, heavy and shining. I picked it up carefully. It was a beautiful model. Many thought this was the weapon. "This brass galleon," I stated, holding it up. It was not the murder weapon. A ripple of surprise went through the room. I placed the galleon back down. "Cyrus Pendleton was not killed by a blow to the head," I explained. "His death was far more subtle." I paused for effect. "He died from poison. The poison was in his tea." "The head wound," I continued, "that was made after he died. It was a trick to confuse us." I reached into my tweed jacket. I pulled out a small evidence bag. Inside, a tiny purple petal lay. It was delicate and star-shaped. "This petal," I said, holding the bag up for them to see, "it was found near Mr. Pendleton's teacup. The poison came from this. It is from a very rare orchid." A wave of confusion crossed the faces of Victor, Lawrence, and Beatrice. They looked at each other, then back at me. No one spoke for a moment. Then Victor Pendleton stepped forward. His confident smile was gone. "A rare orchid?" he asked, his voice sharp. Who would have such a flower, detective? I turned my gaze. My eyes met Agnes Holloway's. She looked nervous. Her hands twisted in front of her. That is an excellent question, Mr. Pendleton, I replied, my voice steady. The person who has such a flower is Agnes Holloway. Agnes gasped. You grew these flowers, didn't you, Agnes, in your secret greenhouse? Agnes's eyes filled with tears. She began to cry softly. Her quiet sadness turned to loud sobs. She could not hide it anymore. He was my father, she cried out, her voice broken. Cyrus was my father. He never helped me. He refused to help his own daughter. Agnes looked up, her face wet with tears. She confessed everything. I put the poison in his tea, she whispered. He was cruel to me. He always was. She pointed a trembling finger at the brass galleon. After he died, I hit him with the ship. I wanted to confuse the police. I wanted them to think it was the weapon. Just then, 2 police officers entered the library. They moved quietly and respectfully. They walked to Agnes. They gently took her arms. Agnes did not resist. She walked with them. Victor, Lawrence, and Beatrice watched in silence. Their faces showed shock and sadness. The room was quiet once more. I stood by the large window. I watched the police car drive away. Its lights disappeared into the evening mist. The case was closed. The truth was known. I felt tired, but I also felt a quiet satisfaction. Another puzzle was solved. Another secret was uncovered.
Si te gustó el video, pon me gusta, suscríbete y activa la campanita para ver más historias.